Hey, what's up everybody? Video 44 coming at you with another video. Alright, so of course we are talking about game 4 of the Eastern Conference Finals between the Boston Celtics and the Miami Heat. That game takes place in Boston, Massachusetts, 5:30 Pacific, 8:30 Eastern. So that's what we're looking at. Steals. Steals defined the previous game. 19 steals for the Miami Heat, 24 turnovers for the Boston Celtics. Needless to say, that is something that is not sustainable, but it is also something that should concern you in regards to Boston Celtics turning the ball over, of course, and continuing this trend of not reacting very well to the pressure of these very, very talented defensive Heat wings. You know, I've never been more, I guess I could say, proud of my decision to choose the Miami Heat. And the thing about it is this, you guys, if you're following me, you know that I see this series about as even as any series. I said if this series is played 8 times, they'll probably both win it 4 times. I think this is a situation where, you know, it can come down to one possession, literally, or an overtime game in Game 7 or something like that. But I think I listened to the analysts and the pundits, and they don't tell the entire story a lot of the time when you're listening to them talk about the Boston Celtics. Yes, the Boston Celtics can beat the Heat, but the Heat can too beat the Boston Celtics. And if you listen to these pundits, they don't have any respect for what the Heat can bring to the table. And I just don't think that that is an honest way to present what is actually going on. I think what we see is 2 teams that are battling it out, that are making good adjustments against one another, that pretty much have basically an even amount of talent between the both of them, but the Heats are just spread out amongst more players. They are a much deeper team than the Boston Celtics at this stage. They are missing players and still keeping up with this team. In fact, they have a 2-1 series lead. But if you listen to the pundits who are talking, they'll have you thinking that the Celtics are up 2-1, and it is theirs to lose because of the presence of great players like Marcus Smart and Grant Williams and Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, of whom we respect a great deal. But it's not like the Heat don't have enough requisite amount of talent to make that team the loser at the end of various games that they're in with one another. I think they can beat one another, and I don't think I'm hearing enough honesty about that based on what we've been talking about. Different reasons. I don't know. I think they want the Boston Celtics in the finals because I think they want, you know, to see that great team back at it again. The Lakers just won a championship a couple years ago. They want to see that continue, and they can market that for many years to come. I think the Miami Heat aren't a very sexy team because the biggest star they have is, you know, Jimmy Butler, and that's just, for the NBA, that's not the sexiest name for them. So I think it looks better if Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown and Marcus Smart are the team going up against the Golden State Warriors to them instead of Miami, even though I could argue more people would want to be in Miami. But whatever. Regardless, this is what it seems like to me. They're trying to shoo the Boston Celtics in, and I don't think the Celtics need any help. They don't need that kind of help from the pundits. They don't need anyone to cap for them or lie for them and say that they are, you know, so much better than the Heat, because they can beat a team that is as good as them. They can win this series. I didn't pick them to win this series, but they could very well win this series, and I want to make that very clear. But I think both teams can. All right, and here's why. Boston Celtics can win this series because they have some advantages in this series right now. Because they're top heavy, they're leaning on players that can do more for them at a given moment. They don't have to make as many decisions with their lineups to get effective basketball play. The Miami Heat have to forego certain things. If they're going to have 3-point shooting on the floor at its best, they got to forego defense. If they're going to have defense on the floor, they're probably not going to shoot as well. That's how they have to maneuver their team because they have so much spread out over more players. But the advantage to that is they can sustain injury. Boston is going to have trouble with that. They don't function the same way when they miss players. They have to rely on players they would rather not rely upon in order to win games. Miami Heat, they regularly play players that are not a part of the mainstay of their cap. They play your Max Struces. They play Caleb Martin. They play, you know, Dwayne Dedmon. They play all of their players all of the time. So when you're dealing with them, you understand that they're next man up no matter what. You remove Marcus Smart and Al Horford from this game, and the Celtics are going to have to play differently. They're going to have to rely upon guys to come in. Maybe it won't be all that used to being on the floor, used to having, you know, been a part of what it is that the team does from day to day. The Heat, nah, their 10th guy gets minutes every night. You know, Duncan Robinson is one of the guys they're paying the most money. He's the guy that's pushed out of the rotation. They're playing Vincent. They're playing, like I said, Caleb Martin. They're playing the Scrooses. They're playing all these guys. So the Celtics, maybe they call up, you know, maybe they can call on some of their guys on the back of the bench. Maybe they come up and play well. You know, maybe, like they got 3 blocks out of Naismith. You know what I mean? Maybe that's a thing. But for the Heat, they're not wondering if Naismith is, you know, or Vincent in their case is going to play. They're not wondering if Caleb Martin can do some things for them, because they've been watching him do it every night all season long. See what I'm saying? They know more about themselves in that regard. They could, because they play so much of everyone. So that's how I look at the Heat. It's like, you're not just dealing with the stars on the Heat. You're dealing with the whole system that the Heat bring, and the various different ways they can morph into whatever it is they need to keep themselves from being, you know, easy to guard. You know, like, for example, you saw them call on Bam Adebayo in the last game. He went off for 31 points and a bunch of assists and things of that nature. That's something they weren't even asking him to do for pretty much this whole playoffs. Been capable of doing that the whole time. Look like a guy like Max Strus, who plays defense all the time. Sometimes he runs hot, sometimes he runs cold. Where he ran hot in this last game, and see what it did for the Miami Heat. You know, look at a guy like Victor Oladipo, who's not a part of necessarily their regular rotation. How many steals did he have? 4 steals. He was making the biggest stops of the game, and he's not even in their top 8 rotation. So this is what I'm talking about. This is why I think the Heat are just as good as the Boston Celtics, because the Boston Celtics are going to wonder if Naismith is going to play well. They're going to wonder if Derek White's going to fit in well in this game. They're going to wonder, you know, about certain production. They have to lean on Grant Williams to shoot a bunch of threes. You know what I mean? If for some reason they need 3-point shooting, they're going to defensive players for that. The Heat can put in entirely different players to get what they need. If they have to go small, they can put a line up on the floor and go really, really small. If they have to match up with you and you got weird wings all over the place, they got wings they can put on the floor, positionless players. If they have to be traditional and play a slow it down style, they can put bigs on the floor and defend you that way. You know, they have more versatility than the Boston Celtics do. And that's what it comes down to for me. And the Boston Celtics have heavier, stronger star power, talent, guys that should, in theory, blow these guys off the floor if they don't play well together, both on defense and offense. The Celtics are top heavier. Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, that's like 2 Jimmy Butlers right there. That's 2 of them. You got Grant Williams, there's a PJ Tucker and a Al Horford combined in some way. You know what I mean? For example, I'm just saying, like, not really giving this much thought, but what I'm trying to say to you guys is that's how it's condensed. That's how it works for these 2 teams. They're different in that way. The Heat have more, and the Celtics have stronger, more talented, top-heavy players, stars, heavier hitting stars. So that's what it is, man. It's about, for me, it's like if you're a believer in the ability for stars to stay healthy, then maybe you lean toward the Celtics. You think, well, the Celtics are top heavier, they're going to have their better players on the floor the majority of the time, and they should be able to lean on those guys, and that's cool. Or you look at depth as something that's more so, and versatility more so, you know, your philosophy. You think it works that way, like myself. I look at versatility, give me more players. I want to be able to withstand injury. If my Marcus Smart goes down, I want to know Peyton Pritchard is going to be a player that can do what he needs to do, etc. You know, if as a Miami Heat fan, if Jimmy Butler goes down, I know I can pick up Vic O and play him a bunch of minutes, and he's going to play excellent defense just like Jimmy. Like, those are the type of things in Boston, nah. You start removing players, they're in trouble. Now, they've withstood it very well because they're a fantastic team. See, that's the thing. It's like, when you're a great team like Boston, just because you face extreme weaknesses does not mean that you can't shove players to the top and do good things, just like the Milwaukee Bucks did when they lost Middleton. They shoved all their players to the top and still had a lot of success because that's how great stars can be. But once you start plucking players from that, you start looking around and you start seeing every line of players they definitely cannot lean on. The Heat aren't going to have that problem. The Celtics will have that problem. And so that's what happens. See, let's say, you know, God forbid, Robert Williams has to be removed from the series again. Okay, the Celtics have what they have, pushing everybody to the top. Somebody gets in foul trouble. Uh-oh. Now somebody else gets in foul trouble. All right. Now they got a bunch of players on the floor that going up against a Heat team that's continuing to put fresh legs on the floor every 7 minutes. You got these same 40-minute per game guys who are stuck here trying to keep running with fresh legs. It's impossible, man. It's just impossible, and that's why I picked the Heat. Because I've looked at how this series is going. I'm like, it's a physical series. You've got guys who are coming into the series already hurt on both sides. Who does that favor? The team with more guys that they can rely upon, the Heat. That's what I've concluded. So that's how I'm looking at it, and I think the Heat are gonna play that out. They've already shown me that their depth is a problem. They've went in situations where they've had to sit guys down and brought other guys in and played excellent. So, you know, Tyler Herro's had a bad series. Caleb Martin's had a great series. You know what I'm saying? It's like Bam Adebayo's been hot and cold. But Jimmy Butler, when he's out there, has been excellent the entire time. You know, PJ Tucker's been excellent the entire time. So these are the type of things, it's like, if for some reason PJ ain't playing well, now you got to deal with Kyle Lowry coming back. Maybe he starts playing well now. It's too much, man. I'm telling you. The Boston Celtics need Jason Tatum to shoot efficiently, which is something that he's never, ever proven he can do on a consistent basis. They're going to need Jaylen Brown to not turn the ball over, you know, because when you score 40 points but you give up the ball 7 times, you know, how much did you really contribute? Maybe that 40-point game was actually an 18-point game when you consider all the dang turnovers. So that needs to not happen. You need Marcus Smart to be healthy. And he's taken so much punishment over these last 3 weeks. I don't even know how the man is standing upright. I don't know how he's going to make it through these playoffs, but he seems like the toughest dude alive, so God bless him. He's taking on too much punishment. You know, I look at Al Horford. He's been in and out of the lineup. That's not a good thing for a guy his age. Luckily enough, they were able to resolve that situation quickly. He stays healthy. They're a problem because obviously he's a great player. You know, but Grant Williams has been great, but they don't use him consistently. They've been kind of having him score some days and not other days. I don't think that works for the Celtics. They need more consistency there, and I think it's as easy as just asking him to be more so. And so it's just, I don't know, man. I look at this series, I say they're down 2-1. The Celtics are. This game is in their house. But the Heat have so much confidence coming into this game because of how they defended against them and had success. And at the same time, I look at the Heat and say, yes, but look at how the score ended up being in the end. When you were up by 1 trillion, had all these steals and only could win by a couple points. You don't score enough, Heat, and that is the concern with the Heat. That is why the Celtics can very much win this series, because all those guys that are spread out amongst them, all these players, at the end of the day, they really are going to have a lot of trouble playing against great offensive players who are able to overcome their defense. You know, let's say Jason Tatum, you throw the world at him, and he has a game where he still overcomes that. He steps into God mode, Jason Tatum. That's going to beat Miami's great defense and overcome what it is that they come at them with. And that's what most people are counting on. You know what I mean? The way I'm looking at it is, I don't trust Jason Tatum like that. If he were prime KD, if he were prime Kobe, you understand, another player of his echelon in that situation, I would probably have more faith in him overcoming what the Heat are doing, because I know he's going to be more consistent scoring the ball. I just don't. I personally don't. I haven't seen enough from Jason in a positive way to say he's going to give me that against great defense. What I think Jason's going to do most of the time is settle for jump shots. If they fall, he's going to look great. If they don't, he's going to take them same amount of shots. And I don't trust that. I don't trust that. And so for me, it's like, okay, yeah, a great player in that situation, heck yeah, they can do it. Jason Tatum, not sure. Not sure. Not sure. Someday, certainly, someday. But today, nah. He needs his offensive game needs to grow a great deal. And I think it will. I definitely think it will. He ain't there yet, though. That's my opinion. And I think the Heat are going to neutralize him, continue to neutralize him, because they've been doing a great job on him. You know, you consider how he looked in that last game. He was awful. He was nothing short of it. You know, and I don't know what's going on with that injury that he had, that shoulder injury. It's a curiosity situation. It's a curious situation there, because we discussed it. You know what I mean? I feel like homie may have faked that injury. I think that's something that we've seen done in the past with Celtics, so I don't think that that's outside of what they do as an organization. It's a strategy that they use to snatch momentum and break up games. So I don't think that was something that he thought up. But at the same time, it's like, I don't think it helped him. I don't think they had the Paul Pierce effect, my friend. I think what that did was ultimately deflate your team, because you were already playing poorly. Now we see you faking this injury, and it just further reinforces how the Miami Heat are winning this series from a mental standpoint, which is something pundits won't tell you. That doesn't fit the narrative they're trying to push on you guys about who the Celtics are at this stage. No, the Miami Heat have the mental edge right now. Why? Because they stole the ball from 19 damn times. That's why. And I'd imagine that's going to cease, because I think Ime Udoka is a coach that is going to lay into those guys in a very, very effective way. He's made his adjustments in this series, and I think those adjustments, or in these playoffs, and I think those adjustments are why he's where he's at right now. So I'd expect him to do some things differently, and probably have some different people holding the ball a little more today. But if Jaylen Brown can't drive the basketball, if he's in a place where this is going to start being a real thing, as he's going to get stripped a lot, this is going to definitely go Miami's way. Because one of the most important aspects of Boston's offense is Jalen Brunson's effective ability to get to his spots and score from those spots, particularly in the paint, getting fouled. If they are able to remove him from this game, or remove him from the series in some way, ain't no way Boston winning this series. They cannot win without Jaylen Brown, period. So I don't know. Man had 40 points, yes. So obviously removing him from the series isn't what you call that. But 7 turnovers, 4 strips by one guy, man, we're talking about something up here now. We're not even talking about stats. We're not even talking about X's and O's. We're talking about right here. If this continues, and the Miami Heat are able to take a 3-1 lead on this series, with Oladipo having more strips and stuff like that, that is horrible for the Heat. I mean, for the Celtics, excuse me. Horrible for them. So I'm not going to make any predictions after that. I think the Celtics are a good enough team to overcome a lot of things, which is why I'm not writing them off in the event that takes place. But I'm telling you, the mental edge belongs to the Heat today. It could change very quickly, but that's where it's at now. Now, with that being said, there are certain players on that team that it ain't going to matter if that's the case. Grant Williams is one of those players. Marcus Smart is another one of those players. Al Horford's another one of those players. I think they may be somewhat immune to that. I don't think those type of guys are wired to care about that kind of thing. They're not going to be rattled or shaken by that. And I think they're still going to play very, very well. And because of it, they could very well snatch that mental edge back. So I'm taking a look at those 3 players tonight. Those are the tough guys in my mind on this team. Al Horford, Grant Williams, and Marcus Smart. If they can come together and facilitate and defend as they are functioned to do, all 3 of them. Well, Grant Williams not really a facilitator, but he helps so much on both sides based on his shooting ability and, of course, rebounding, defense, and all that other great stuff. Those 3 guys, if they go hard, Miami's going to have a hard time, especially if they're shooting their 3-ball well. Marcus Smart's been shooting the ball well. Obviously, his assist game has been great. Everything about his game pretty much has been fantastic, including his ability to come back from injury, which is just Kobe-like stuff, man. You gotta love it. And he wasn't faking that injury. I saw it. His ankle was on the ground just like LeBron's. And the fact of the matter was he was able to come back and just not have any issues hitting jumpers in the corner and defending and all that. An Iron Man or some special drug that he shot into his ankle, I don't know. Whatever it was, I'm with it. More of that is for all the athletes. I'm for that. So at the end of the day, man, you know, the Boston Celtics are primed to tie this series up if they're able to overcome their turnover issues. Even though the mental edge does belong to the Miami Heat, the building belongs to the Boston Celtics. They dropped one in their home court, and the Miami Heat only won that game by a couple points, which tells me that the Boston Celtics found something that worked, that put them in a position to have some success that almost won that basketball game. So that tells me that they're probably not going to drop another game in their own house. Not before at least tying the series up. So I'm going to predict the Celtics get this particular game. I don't think the series is anywhere near over. As I say, they had the mental edge. I also made it clear that I think there are 3 players over there that ain't going to care about no mental edge. And because of it, I think the Boston Celtics are going to be just as strong as they need to be to overcome what took place there. What I'm going to need to see is better Derek White. Obviously, he's coming back from a really important aspect of life off the court. He got a kid now, so congratulations to his family on their addition. But he's going to have to get right back into basketball mode, and he's going to have to play better. He's been a big problem for them in these playoffs. He just hasn't fit, in my opinion. He just hasn't fit. And I don't know enough about his game to tell you what it is he's good and not good at. Honestly, I didn't watch a whole lot of Spurs when he was there. But they need to get the most out of him somehow. He's like Spencer Dinwiddie for the Celtics in a way. For the Mavs, obviously, but he's their Spencer Dinwiddie. They got to get him going. Because if they can't get him going, they're leaving a lot on the table in terms of production from their team. And as I said, they're not the deepest team in the world, even though they're very deep and not nearly as deep as Miami. They need everybody to play well, and he hasn't been. Simple as that. He hasn't not been. Peyton Pritchard's been shooting better. They need him to play well as well. That point guard position is so important because even though Marcus Smart has been holding it down, he's been dealing with a lot of injuries. He's a physical player, so he may pick up fouls. You're going to need those two guys to be good. Just be good at what you do during these playoffs, and it will help your team. Simple as that. So that's what I gotta say, man. This is a tough game to predict because of how inconsistent these playoffs have been. A lot of what the information tells us has been the opposite of what the conclusion has been after the games. So a lot of times you just know the two teams are going to go at it. Referees are going to call fouls. and we will see what happens when all of that shakes out. That's kind of the best way to approach these games at this point. Now, granted, there are certain consistent things that we've been seeing that you'll probably see more of. One being the inconsistent shooting of both teams from behind the arc. I don't think either one of these teams have shot the greatest from behind the arc in these 3 games. And I don't expect they're going to be getting a lot better at all. The Miami Heat don't typically shoot better on the road. And, we just saw the Celtics struggle from behind the arc at home. So, yeah, that's something that I think could possibly continue. Perimeter defense for both teams has been a priority, so obviously it's reflected there. I like how Miami closed out on those 3-point shooters in Game 1. I think they kind of got away from that in Game 2. I want to see how they're going to handle this in Game 4, if they can get back to the ways that worked for them in that regard. Keep those Celtics shooting poorly, because ultimately that's what helped them win Game 7, right? The Bucks, the Celtics, Game 7. When they shot very well, the Celtics shot them out of the game. If the Bucks could have just guarded their perimeter defense a little better, they might actually be here themselves. So that's essentially what I'm saying to you. Perimeter defense has improved, and I think that will continue for the Boston Celtics. Yeah. So anyway, a little confused there. My mind is everywhere. But I can tell you this: after all of these games that we've been watching, the one thing that I know is going to continue, along with 3-point shooting woes, is physicality. These two teams are going to beat each other up. Game 3 was a very physical basketball game, one of the most physical we've seen in these entire playoffs, with all those steals. And the referees kind of let some of that go. I think you may see the opposite. I think you may see the refs try to tighten up on some of those calls. Maybe some of those strips won't be strips. They'll be fouls. Just a little hunch, given the fact that you don't necessarily see referees officiate the same game twice when things like this occur. 19 steal? Yeah, no, it wasn't enough foul calls for what the NBA normally sees in situations such as that. So I expect more foul calls tonight. And yeah, a lot of people are upset about the officiating, so keep an eye open. At the end of the day, we're seeing a lot of people flopping. We're seeing a lot of people faking injuries to try to get things taken a look at, and all that nonsense is very much strategy at this point. So expect the Celtics and the Heat to flop around. Maybe the Celtics fake another couple of injuries or something like that. Strategy at this point. It's not even disrespectful. Now it's just like everybody's doing it, so it's what we're doing. And I don't love it, but until the NBA does something about it, guys are gonna do what they got to do to win. Period. So that's what it is, man. That is it. Pre-game videos getting longer and longer because these series give us so much to speak about. I think we're very blessed to have NBA basketball. We need to not forget how things was just 2 years ago when literally no one could go to the arenas, etc., lockouts and all that. So very blessed to have basketball, and we're going to enjoy tonight's Game 4. 5:30. And yeah, that's what I got, man. BDL 44. Thank y'all for watching. I'm out.